Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All praises to the Most High. We give him praise, glory, and honor. First and foremost, hallelujah. He gets the praise, he gets the glory, and he gets the honor. And we say shalom, shalom. Welcome to the house of Yah. CAC, come on in to Yah's house. It's going to be all right. Hallelujah. One thing that Abba Yah is not going to contend with, and that is fear. And in this day and time that we live, what is that? Who is that? Okay. One thing that Abba Yah is not going to contend with, and that is going to be your fear. He does say the fearful and the unbelieving will not make it in. So it's imperative for us not to move in fear, but to move in faith. To move in faith. Faith over fear. That's what we're going to have is faith. So we need to be able to move in faith and not fear. Abba Yah is not going to be pleased with us. And why do you say that? Why do I say that now is because the day and time that we're living in as we approach the return of our Messiah and many of the things that has to happen before his return. Some of the things that's going to happen before his return. We are in the last days. This is the last days. I believe this is the generation that Yahusha spoke about in the 24th chapter of Matthew and the 21st chapter of Luke, 13th chapter of Mark. I do believe this is that generation that we're going to see. We're going to see the events happen around the world that is spoken in prophecy. It's going to cause a lot of fear in the heart of some of us. Not all of us. Some of us are going to be brave. We're going to be able to endure. Many of us are going to be fearful. Some of us are just not going to believe. One thing it's going to come down to is whether you do believe or not, because the world, and I shouldn't say the world, even though it is much of the world, but it was prophesied that his people would be would be worshiping and be in idolatry. And in our day and time, it's almost inconceivable to a lot of people that some of the things that we have been taught, and for a few generations now, a number of years and a few generations, there's some things that we've been taught that many of us refuse to come to the realization and the revelation that there was some error. There was just some error in that teaching. A lot of us come into the understanding that when we talk about what sin is the transgression against his law. And sometimes we look at the law being what was spoken of Moses at Mount Sinai. But there was also a law given that Abraham understood. He understood a law. There was a law given unto him in Genesis chapter 26 and verse number 5. I'm going to read verse 3, Genesis 26, 3, 4, and 5. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will Baruch thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. He's talking to Yishak. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of the Shamaim, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice, he kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And so there was a condition that, like he said here, there was things that was given unto Abraham. Abraham heard his voice and had to obey his voice. Yahuwah speaks today. The last one he spoke through was his son. It says in Hebrews 1:1, Yah, who at sundry times and divers manners spake unto our fathers, is coming through his son. Abraham, Yishak, Jacob, our forefathers, from their character that's being explained in Torah and the instructions, would never go against the teachings of the Most High Yah's son. As we see very prevalent today, even though people call themselves Christians and everything like that, but they go against the very words and the voice of Yahusha and tend to follow the voice of another, sometimes another Mashiach, sometimes another apostle. Shaul warned us that he will appear as an angel of light, as Satan will. His ministers will appear as the same thing. Yahusha had warned us about false Christ and false prophet. All of this, you know, if you were of Abraham's seed, if you are of Abraham's seed, which means you are of his descendant, you're of his lineage. If you are of Abraham's seed, and you, because those who know Abraham and know that they're of his seed, he's a patriarch. He's a father. He is someone that we would really look up to. And I know for us, it's kind of hard to visualize and go back that many generations to where you can visualize Abraham as in your direct upline. You know, it's kind of hard for us to fathom that and to embrace that, because for many of us, we're taught that it doesn't matter where you come from. But see, that's not what Torah teaches. Torah does not teach that at all. Yahusha didn't teach that. Yahusha didn't teach it doesn't matter where you come from. in the 15th chapter of Matthew, when you had that Phoenician Canaanite woman that came unto Yahusha, and Yahusha told her, what did he say? Should I take the children's bread and do what? Cast it to dogs? You know, so just the way Yahusha framed everything and thought about everything, it being, you know, in the direct lineage of Abraham, many of us today would contradict or have a difficult time with Yahusha if he was here today. Many of us, and I say many of us, I'm speaking rhetorically, many of us would have a hard time even accepting Yahusha today. Many of us would. And the reason why is because everything that's been fed to us in our mentality and in our teaching, which directly affects your faith. Your faith is, it depends on what you believe, what you think, what you feel. So, because what is the definition of faith? Who can give me the definition of faith? The evidence of things not seen, right? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So really, with that definition, can you take that definition into the court of law? In our courts of law, and you a witness, and can you say that? I'm here on the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Get rid of that witness. Get rid of that witness, because you cannot be a witness under those definitions. And so there's a lot of things when it comes to our faith and what we believe. It's because of what we've been taught. It's because of our environment. It's because of our parents. It's because of our genetics. All of that shapes our faith. A lot of times we don't realize that we have a substance of faith before we even come to the Christian church. We just don't realize it. And then we allow the Christian church to shape what we already believe and have faith in. Because some of us believe, when you talk about, well, who are you? Some of us have a very poor opinion of ourselves because it's been hammered and drilled in us. You're nothing. You're the dust of the earth. You're mud. Is that what they tell us? You just mud. You dust. You ain't nothing. There's no self-esteem. But if you study this book, those who were descendants of Abraham, Yishak, and Jacob, they stood firm on where they came from. Even in the time of our Messiah, because a lot of people think once the Messiah comes, then everything changes. Once the Messiah comes, everything changes. And that's not true. That's not true. It's hard to get us to understand truth in this day. It's very difficult. And so when truth is spoken, a lot of times, because we're not used to unadulterated truth, what do? Oh, we reject it. Oh, it can't be so. That can't be true. That can't be true. Abraham was somebody who obeyed his voice, kept his charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And he taught it to his generations after him and the generations after him. If we did this the way the book instructs us to do, then it wouldn't be so hard with this generation and telling people this generation, it does matter who you are. It does matter. Doesn't mean you're going to make it. Doesn't mean you're going to make it. But it does matter who you are. But we can't accept that because that's not something that has been taught to us from our home structure to our academics to religion. So I gotta believe the Messiah, right? I gotta believe and have my faith in the Messiah. But we don't fully understand that when you open up Genesis and you read all the way through the prophets, you are reading about your Messiah. From the time of the creation to the time of our Messiah, all that is written in that book is our Messiah. That is our Messiah. Now, how do we know that? So when I open up Genesis, I read Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. I read the history of Yasharel. I read the prophets of Yasharel. How do I know I'm reading about Yahusha Hamashiach? Who could tell me that? How do I know that I'm reading about Yahusha Hamashiach? Anybody? You got any scriptures? Talk back to me. You got any scriptures that can confirm what I said, that when you open up the book from Genesis to all the prophets, from the creation to the law of Moses, to the history of Yasharel, the conquering nation, to the prophets, the fall of Israel, all of that is Yahushua Mashiach. Where do I go to confirm that? Okay, right. All right. I'm probably is Maura Walsh, is she gonna answer all the questions? She ain't gonna answer all the questions, right? Some people say, well, it depends on the questions. um, Psalms chapter 40, let's see, let's start at verse number 7. So Psalms chapter 40, verse number 7, he says, "Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me. I delight to do thy will, O my Eloah, or my sovereign, or the Most High El Elyon, Eloah. Yea, thy law is within my heart. I have preached righteousness in the great congregation. Lo, I have not refrained my lips. O Yahuwah, thou knowest." Okay? So where else do we pick this up at? This is Psalms, which is in the historical part of Yasharel, the time of King Daud. So where else do we see this at? Anybody? Anybody? Where else do we see this at? Hebrews chapter 10, and let's look at verse number 7. Y'all notice Psalms 40 and what verse? And then Hebrews 10, what verse? So we can make some connections here. We can start to see how it relates. So then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will, O Yahuwah, O Eloah. Eloah is singular for Elohim. Eloah. Above what he said, sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offering for sin thou wouldest not, neither hadst pleasure, which are offered by the law, because he was going to do something better than what was offered in the law. And what was better was the law was sealed with the blood of bulls and goats. What's better, or the better covenant, is that now it's going to be sealed with the blood of the life of Yahusha. The blood of bulls and goats does not understand your consciousness. They could never take away sin. Bulls and goats are animals. Their consciousness is totally different than your consciousness. So he says, well, I'm going to do something better now. my only begotten Son, who was made in the likeness of us and for us. And it says that through his sacrifice, if his blood covers you, you should no longer have the consciousness of sin. And the reason why you shouldn't have the consciousness of sin is because Yahusha understood you. Yahusha understood you. Can't nobody say, he don't know me, he don't feel me. You can't say that. In this same book, Hebrews chapter 12 and verse, let me see here, is it 24? Hebrews 4 and 14, let's see. 15. We start with 14. Hebrews 4:14. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Yahusha, the Ben Elohim or Ben Eloah, let us hold fast our profession. We have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. So what is better is the blood of bulls and goats don't know your consciousness, can never deal with your consciousness. What consciousness does a bull or goat have like you? They don't have the reasoning. They're not made they're not made like the son of Elohim, like Adam was. So their consciousness is more of an animalistic instinct type of consciousness. They can't deal with our consciousness. That's why their life, a life of a bull or a goat for your sin, there's going to be something better than that. I'm going to give you the life of my son, because the life of my son, he can be touched with your infirmities. He can feel you. So can't nobody say, well, he was the son of Yahuwah, the son of the Most High. How you expect me to be like him? He knows everything you felt and was tempted in all points like as you are, yet without sin. That is what's going to get us over. That is the new part. That is the better covenant. When he talks about the better covenant is Yahusha's life, his blood, his consciousness, being able to be touched with all your infirmities, has been tempted. There's no temptation that you have that Yahusha didn't have. Nobody in here listening can sit up there and say, well, he don't know what I'm going through. As a human being, he does know everything that you're going through. So when we go back to Hebrews chapter 10 and looking at verse 8 and 9, above, when he said, sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offering for sin thou wouldest not, neither hadst pleasure, which are offered by the law. Because if people are saying because of this verse and the next one he did away with law, you missed the whole thing. Because the sacrifice and offerings that was on the first when he gave the covenant was the blood of bulls and goats. And we see that in this chapter, early up in this chapter, it says the blood of bulls and goats could never take away sin. Right? So then said he, lo, I come to do thy will, O Eloah. He taketh away the first bulls and goats, that he may establish the second, which was the offering of his own body. So Yahusha Hamashiach, whenever you open up Genesis, let's go back to Genesis 26 and verse number 5. When I go to Genesis 26 and verse number 5, I'm opening up the volume of Yahusha Hamashiach. So if anybody says, why you keep going to the Old Testament or the Torah or whatever, because that is done away with. They speak out of ignorance. And that's why we have to be able to understand, no, when you open up the Torah, you're opening up the volume of Yahushua Mashiach. You're opening up the volume of the book, his whole life. This when we talk about Abraham, obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. I'm opening up the volume of Yahushua HaMashiach. So if anybody tries to close this up and say we don't need to read that, let's read Shaul's letters, then you've just missed it. Well, that he's not speaking of salvation. This is the volume of the book that Yahushua came in. This is the whole volume of the book. In fact, when let's go to Acts. I just want to do this real quick. Acts 28 and 17. Let's go down to 23. Acts 28:23. And when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him into his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of Yahuwah, persuading them concerning Yahusha, both out of the law of Moses and the prophets, from morning to evening. Because the only thing that Shaul had was Genesis through Malachi. In fact, he probably had more than that, because there's more prophets and books of the prophets, scrolls of the prophets that he read from, that he understood. We only have what was given unto us by a people who are not his people and not his chosen. The Roman Catholic Church decides what you read and what you study and how you understand the book. And it wasn't even given unto them. But I learned it from them. And that's why I said we need to investigate and we need to do some research, especially if you want to grow in him. Because this is all Shaul used, the law of Moses from morning to the prophet. So we see Abraham, Yishak, Jacob. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4. I'm going to start at verse 1. Deuteronomy 4 and verse number 1. And we're going to read about Yahushua HaMashiach. He's in the volume of the book. We're going to read about Yahushua HaMashiach. Now, therefore, hearken, O Yasharel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that ye may live, and go in and possess the land which Yahuwah Elohah of your fathers giveth you. Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish from it, which means you're not supposed to add, you're not supposed to take away, that ye may keep the commandments of Yahuwah your Elohah, which I command you. Don't add to it, don't take away. If somebody takes away from this, they're out of the will of Yah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter our titles. It doesn't matter how many years you've been around here. It doesn't matter the schools you went to, the degrees that you have. You got letters behind your name. I don't know about this young man. I've been here 40, 50 years. That doesn't mean anything. If you add or take away from this book, you're guilty. You're just guilty. It doesn't matter. Because a lot of times we start to qualify. We put certain men and women up on pedestals, and we allow, which there's nothing wrong with research, study. There's nothing wrong with that, gathering of information. In fact, we're in an information age, and you do yourself disjustice by not researching and not digging up and gathering information to increase your knowledge base and your understanding, especially of this book. If anybody's ignorant today, it's because you chose to be ignorant. That's just your selection. I don't want to learn nothing. Well, then don't read nothing. I don't want to learn nothing. Well, don't research nothing. Reading is boring. Well, then I mean, you have a certain knowledge base, and that's pretty much where you're gonna stay. I mean, the prophets. Now, I did learn that a lot of the prophets had scribes, so they weren't really the ones who wrote it. Most High Yah spoke to them, and they told their scribes what the Most High Yah said, and so the scribes wrote it down. So you had a lot of those who went to the school of the prophets, and a lot of them were scribes. And so even, there is a verse, there is a book, chapter, and verse that tells us we have to be careful of the scribes. Does anybody know that? Because it talks about the pen of the scribes is in vain. So if you got somebody who's writing, but it's not through the unction or the spirit of Yahuwah or Yahusha, is because if you're not listening to his voice and it's not him that's inspiring it, then your writing is in vain. And there were some back in that day that had scribes who were writing that wasn't writing from the voice of the Most High Yah. Now, I don't know, maybe somebody have heard his voice today. That's your testimony if you say you heard his voice. But we who have his Ruach, and we testify, because you got to be careful now what you say. Now, you testify, you have his Ruach, then you should be able to hear his voice as you go through the Torah, as you go through the instruction book, as you read about the history. You should be able to hear his voice. You should be able to hear the voice. And it might not be an audible voice, but your Ruach will connect with the Ruach of this book. Because what did Yahusha say about the words that he speaks? What did he say in the 6th chapter of Yahukanah? He says, my words are life. My words are Ruach, and they are life. So your Ruach needs to connect with the writings of this book and what's written in this book, and then you'll hear his voice. So he says here, your eyes have seen what Yahuwah did because of Baal Peor. For all the men that followed Baal Peor, or Lord Peor, Yahuwah thy Elohah have destroyed them from among you. And in order to understand what he's saying here, you probably have to go back to the book of Numbers. And I think it's like the 22nd, 23rd, 24th chapter of Numbers. And that'll give you some background on what he's saying here. And you'll find out, because we talked about the other day, remember Numbers 25, what did they do with the heads of, I already gave it away, but those who followed Baal Peor, what did they do? They cut their heads off and hung them up. This is what happens to those who follow Baal Peor. Baal was the name of the Canaanite god, their Elohim. His name was, they addressed him as Baal. Baal. And that's Hebrew, but if you want to translate it into English, it's Lord. And so those who followed that prophet and what he did, everybody that followed him, it cost them their life. So how do you think Yah is going to judge in that last judgment on your life if you're following in idolatry and some of these other things? How do you think? The reason why he gives you the illustration and talks about it in his book is because he's trying to warn you. I'm warning you, this was the fate of those men. So I'm letting you know. I want you guys to know what happens to this is the fate of those men. Now, if you do it now, just as long as you know what happened to them, when it comes time for your judgment, if you think Yah's going to judge you differently than what he judged them, then we really don't have a full understanding of who Yah is. And because I know the first thing we want to do, I'm falling on the mercies of Yah. And we're going to start calling on the name of his son. And now he does tell us to plead with him, right? He says, put me in remembrance. Now, I told you I was going to forgive you your sins. Now, put me in remembrance. Let me know. So for me, I can't speak for y'all. I'll speak for myself. But for me, Abba Yah, you said you're going to forgive my sins. I'm just trusting and believing you're going to forgive my sins. I mean, you talk to him the way you talk to him, but he'll tell you, don't go out. What, son, you want me to forgive you today and you're just going to do it tomorrow? What, you want me to forgive you tomorrow? You're going to do it the next day? Is that the kind of relationship that you have with me? To where you want to fulfill your flesh and then come to me and put me in remembrance? Is that the kind of relationship that you want? Because if you knew your Father, he's not going to tolerate willful. He's not going to tolerate it. Presumptuous. He's not going to tolerate. You confess to me today knowing you're going to do it tomorrow. Well, it told me, now the preacher's been telling me to put you in remembrance, but you're not hearing his voice. Because if you heard his voice, yes, there's mercy, yes, there's forgiveness, and he has made a covenant with us. But just like he told that woman that was caught in adultery, he said, I'll have mercy for you, and I'm not going to judge you on that sin, but go and sin no more. That's our Father. That's Abba. That's your Father. You can't say he's not merciful. You can't say he's not compassionate. You can't say he forgot about you. You can't do none of that. There's a verse in Isaiah 45 and 49. It says that we are written or tattooed where? On the palm of his hand. He can't help but know who you are. I know who you are. You right here. Every time I look at my hand, there you are. So it's not that he's inconsiderate, he's harsh, he's mean, because sometimes we might think of him as being very mean, but he is austere, which means if I'm righteous, I have to judge you on your wrongdoing. If I'm righteous, and we know Yah's righteous. We know he's righteous, so he is going to judge on our sins, but it's not his intent. I'm going to say this. It's not his intent to send y'all to the lake of fire. That's not his intent. That's not why he made the lake of fire. That's not it. But he says, I had to enlarge it because of the heart of man. I had to enlarge it. Because it's just, men are content on doing evil. Like it says in Ecclesiastes, the 8th chapter, I think it's verse 11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, it's set in the heart of men to do what? To do evil. Is that, I want to make sure I called that right, because sometimes I say, and it ain't the right one, and y'all have to, yeah, it's the right one. And y'all have to say something. Wait a minute, that's not the right one. Okay, well, let's get the right one. Let's get the right one. Because I know I got some Bible thumpers in here. I know I got some folks that read the Bible. And even in the digital room, the digital house. I know there's some people out there that read the book, and that's good. You should read the book, and whoever you following, that teacher, that preacher you following, you need to read that book, and so you know if what they're saying is true or not. Well, you said this the other day, because I said something the other day. I'm going, wait a minute, I got to back up. And it was dealing with Canaan. And because, what did I say? I said Canaan was cursed, and he was supposed to serve his brothers. And so I was looking at his brothers as Mitzrayim, Put, and Cush. But he was serving his brothers. Now, this puts it in a different category now. When it says he was serving his brothers, it explains who his brothers were. Did y'all catch that? Yeah, he kind of explains, he kind of tells you, because his brothers that he was going to serve was who? Japheth, and those were his brothers. That's what the Bible says, which lets you know that that uh, I mean, y'all see the connection. Well, maybe you don't. We don't. That's not the Bible class tonight, but it's worth studying when you go in there and dig into it and really see it, because our book makes mention that Ham is the father of Canaan twice before it starts to get into the genealogy of the sons. Just kind of let you know that when I break all this down, that Ham is the father of Canaan, not who? Not Noah. Noah's not the father of Canaan. Ham is the father of Canaan. But Canaan had to serve his brothers, Japheth and Shem. That's what it says. But you can do your research now, look it up. Huh? So it's important that you read and study this book, because I got a commentary up in my office from Matthew Henry that says Ham was cursed and all his sons were cursed. And that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says Canaan was cursed. And Ham was the father of Canaan, but Canaan was cursed. Yes. There is generational curses. On Canaan. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, Canaan didn't commit the sin, but what I think it was, the reason why he cursed Canaan and not Ham is because he had already blessed them. He had blessed Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He had blessed them. They were blessed before they got on the ark. So, who do you curse? How do I curse you if I've already blessed you? It's just like when Baal or Balaam, when Balaam went, because Barak said, curse Israel. And the Most High Yah says, you're not cursing them. And Balaam says, how could he curse Israel that he's already blessed? So then we get into Deuteronomy 28 and we see the blessings and the curses, but that's a little different, because he says, if you are obedient, this is what you'll find. If you are disobedient, this is what is going to happen to you. So if you're obedient, these are the blessings. If you're disobedient, these are the curses. So if they would have been obedient, they wouldn't even have to worry about the curses. But since they were disobedient, right? So understanding, when he blesses somebody, if he bless you, he's not going to put a curse on you. We see that with what we're talking about tonight. Abraham, he blessed Abraham, right? He blessed Abraham, so he's not going to turn around and curse Abraham, but he blessed Abraham. Any questions? Okay, so, but ye that did cleave unto Yahuwah your Elohah are alive, every one of you this day. Talking about those who didn't follow Baal Peor. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahuwah my Elohah commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. And most nations have taken our book and built governments off of them. A lot of your governments around the world, you'll see the law of Moses in a lot of those governments. Where do you think they got it from? They got it from our book. So it says, in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. When I study Yahuwah from the beginning all the way up to our Messiah, Yahushua Mashiach, there's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in there. When you read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, he talks about how he wants to form a nation and how a nation is to represent him and the purity and the righteousness of that nation. When Yahusha taught in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, he referred to Moses' teachings to build the moral character of the nation. He even went further, as we see on the Sermon on the Mount. It has been said, but I say unto you, talking about those commandments. This is what Moses said, but I'm saying unto you, because he went to the heart of the matter. Instead of looking on the outside, he was looking directly at the heart. He didn't take away from Moses' law. He didn't add to it. He was looking at the heart. He was dealing with the heart. And that's why he says, because we can break it down in the Sermon on the Mount, which is where Yahusha preached. And the reason why I say he preached, because he was out in public. When he was in the synagogue, he was teaching. He taught every day in the synagogue. When he stepped outside of the synagogue and he went into the public, that was preaching, because in the Greek, the word preach means a public herald. That's what it means. So the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, is Yahusha preaching. Now, was he hoofing and stomping? No, he was speaking. But the difference from teaching and preaching is teaching was done in the synagogue, preaching was done out in the open. But it says he taught them. He taught them about Moses. He taught them about that. But because it was a public herald, then the Greeks called it preaching. And if you know from the Hebraic standpoint, everything he said was a teaching. He taught his people, whether he was in the house, whether he was out in the open, whether he was in the synagogue, wherever he was, he just taught the people. And I'm just, sometimes I just think about how privileged it would have been just to be there to hear him. How privileged that would have been. But they didn't know what they had. And I would have known. No. Because a lot of people don't know what they got now. So you can't say, I would have done things different. No. You're the direct lineage of your ancestors. Most of the children of Israel treat Yahusha the same today as their ancestors did back then. Most people. There's only a few that make it out. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgment, even as Yahuwah my Elohim commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep therefore, okay, I said that. Surely this is a great nation, is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who have Elohim so nigh unto them as Yahuwah our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? Now, this is the proclamation that Moses is telling the people. This is his second go round, because if you look at this at Mount Horeb, which is, they say Mount Horeb here in Deuteronomy, but it's the same as saying Mount Sinai, same mount. They received it the first time. Now, why is he giving it to them again the second time? Deuteronomy, from Exodus, Deuteronomy. He's dealing with another generation. He's dealing with another generation because everybody that was over 20, except for two people, died in the wilderness, didn't make it over. Everybody over 20 but two. And so he's got another generation here now that he is getting ready to teach them. So you see a lot of repetition in Deuteronomy as you see in Exodus. You see some repetition because he's dealing with another generation. Verse 8, and what nation is so great that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? Because if you study the law, The law will make you a good, clean, moral person because it teaches righteousness and purity, because that's what he wants of us. He wants righteousness. In fact, if you're righteous and pure, you take on his nature, and they call that godliness. That's what they call it, godliness. When you're taking on his nature, because Yahuwah is holy. And everyone who says they're in Yahuwah, you can't be in him unless you are holy. You have to be holy. You have to be set apart. Well, I'm trying. No, you have to be holy and be set apart, because that's what this book teaches from Genesis to Revelation. There's a lot of stories and stuff in there, but it's teaching you, and you got to hear his voice, because it's teaching you how to live righteously, which he wanted his nation to do, to be an example to all these nations around the world. So the nation that stands out, that should be the light of the world, when you look at them, they're plundered, they're scattered, they're beat down. Some people say these are the most wickedest people in the world. Huh? Oh, yeah. I mean, when you see it and you go, my goodness, because that's not what our book teaches. Our book does not teach that behavior. It doesn't teach that behavior. And when we went over to Ghana, the respect that the young generation had for the older generation would make this country over here look sick. These folks man, y'all sick. We respect our elders. We honor them. Well, where do you think they get that from? Because our commandment says, honor your father and mother. How can you curse your father? There's a lot of folks, y'all will be glad, because when he gathers his people and he makes them, because the next ruling nation, once this world and these Gentile nations fall, which they are, we've already seen the beginning of it. We are in the time of tribulation. Tribulation has already started. But the next nation that's going to rise up to be the world leader is going to be Yasharel and his nation. That's going to be the next one. And if you make that kingdom, your life, everything that you live, is going to be example for all other nations. You're going to be that light of the world for all other nations. You're going to be that light. And other nations are going to look to the kingdom of Yahuwah as a ruling kingdom around the world. Going to look at that kingdom, and you're going to be the model and the standard for all other nations. But you got to make the kingdom. So that's why we're practicing now, because if you don't do it now, you ain't going to do it later. I'm going to wait till I get to the kingdom. No, if you can't do it now, you ain't going to do it later. You're not going to do it later. You're going to be judged on what you do now. So how are you going to make it over there if you're going to be judged on what you're doing now? So that's why we're practicing. We're trying to get over. We're trying to make it into the kingdom so that we could be that light unto the world. Only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul diligently. Notice now, keep thy soul diligently. And you know, Shaul picks it up in Acts. He says, work out your soul salvation with what? He says, keep thy soul diligently. You have some custodial work to do to keep your soul diligently. He ain't taking all that junk in. Y'all have to know, because I see Yasharel going around the world. So they Yasharel. He ain't taking all that junk in. All that stuff ain't going into the kingdom. It's not. His kingdom is holy. It's a holy nation. It's a holy people. It's a set apart people. It's a righteous people. It's a godly people. When I say godly, I mean you take on the nature of Yahuwah, because we didn't call him God or godly, but you take on that nature of him. And so that's why let me work this out now. Keep thy soul diligently. Let's do it now. I ain't going to waste no time. I don't know how much time I got. None of us know how much time we got. It was just some children got swept away by water a few days ago. You don't have to be old and you don't have to be sick to perish. When your time is up, you're going. So while you have time, you got to keep your soul diligently. I got to work out my soul salvation with fear. I got to work this thing out. Lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life, but teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons. This is why we have to do generational teaching. You cannot teach nothing you ain't living. You teach what you live. That's what he's trying to tell you here. Lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. So teach them. I don't want covetousness to be a part of my life, so I have to teach against it. It's ever before me. Thou shalt not covet. Every day, thou shalt not covet. I got to keep that before me, and I have to teach it. Otherwise, what's going to happen? He says it right here. Lest thou what? Forget the things which thine eyes have seen, unless they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But you got to teach them. God teach it. In fact, every father, every mother is a teacher. I don't want to be responsible for teaching. It's too late. This was written how many years ago? I don't care if you don't want to be responsible for it. If you're a mother, you're a teacher. If you're a father, you're a teacher. Well, I don't want to be a teacher. Well, you should have kept it closed. I'll just be nice. Because we're not telling our son, now, you grow up, you're going to have your own kid. You got to teach them now. You got to teach them. And not only do you have to teach them, but you have to teach them how to teach. And that's that oral that went down from generation to generation, because they didn't have a printing press. And sometimes those scrolls in, like, where the Ten Commandments, how many Ten Commandments was there? How many copies of the Ten Commandments was there? One. And where was it? It was in the ark. One copy. Well, yeah, and only certain people could touch it, because if you weren't of the right folks, family to touch it, it'd kill you. One copy of the Ten Commandments. So they had to teach, and generation from generation, they had to teach what was in that covenant, what was in the Ark of the Covenant, what was written on that. They didn't have it, well, it's in the living room on the end table. Here's the Ten Commandments. They didn't have that. No, you had to have it here and here. And when you had children, you could wait. We got to teach you this, especially now, because I know one thing: if our children, all they have to do is witness it once, maybe twice, of seeing another child stoned to death because they cursed their father and mother. I think they probably only have to see it once, sometimes twice. They ain't gonna do it. Y'all ain't stoning me. You know, that ain't happening. I don't want that kind of activity. Let's just keep it cool. Let's keep it going. Yes.
Even though I guess they're not being stoned like in the literal sense, right? Right. I think it's on. Okay. The Yahweh is still punishing young people for not honoring their mother and their father. You know what I'm saying? Because I think because they don't see it, happening. I believe, and according to what, if I have it right, according to Torah, you'll be cut off. If you walk around here speaking against your father, your mother, disobey. I mean, like, they give you plain instructions, and you do the opposite on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't see how you would be baruched,
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a law for that. What do we know what that law is? The law of sowing and reaping. That's a law nobody can break. I don't care if you don't believe in the law. That's a law everybody's going to keep. Whatever a man soweth, that's what they're going to reap. And usually if children are sowing that and they grow up doing that and everything, it's going to come back to them. It's going to come back on them. You know, the disrespect, the talking, maybe just the outright rebellion, just no control over the house. Well, you never allowed your father or mother to have control of you. So now you got your house and you want control. You ain't going to have control. Because what you sow is coming back. Now, what if I was always respectful and everything, but then I see what's going on I have stuff coming back at me. There's no way I would do that to my mom and dad. I just wouldn't do that. I wasn't obedient, and maybe that's what it was. But as far as being disrespectful, I didn't disrespect my father and mother in my definition. But disrespecting your father and mother when you know what they stand for and you do the opposite. So you're kind of disrespecting them. You know, now I'm guilty of that because I know how my mom and dad was and how they grew up. And even though I honored them, and I still do to this day, I did some things that they taught me not to do, and I did them. So that could be something that could come back and get, because that's a law nobody can break. You can't break that law. I don't believe in no law. Too bad. Yeah, there's. Yeah. 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 And sometimes parents even say when you get in trouble, they said, you know, you disrespected this house because you know what we stand for, and you went against it, so you're disrespecting this house. You know, and so we have to pray for the mercies of Yah. But even with King David, he threw himself on the mercies of Yahweh, and he found mercy. But he had to go through the judgment. Still had to be judged. You know, he was merciful unto him, let him live and everything. First judgment was a child died. Then after that, he lost his wives. Then, you know, his son, Absalom, ran him out of the kingdom. All kind of stuff just started happening to David because of that one sin. You know, so, you know, there's times where we can disrespect our parents' house, but then when it's time to be judged, or I want to get away, I don't want that kind of judgment, or I don't want that to come on me. But one thing about Yah's laws, once he sets down a law and stuff, that's for everybody. King David, what did he say about King David? He was the what? King David was the what? He was a man after his own heart. Yasharel as a nation was the apple of his eye. King Daud was a man. He said, this is a man after my own heart. But I still got to judge him. You know, so, yeah, there's things that we do, and that's why we try to teach our children, you know. But you have to be respectful as a father and a mother. You can't be abusive. You can't be, you have to, there's still responsibilities for a father and a mother, you know, that they have to be able to guide that house. Now, we have, you know, sometimes, there's no parenting classes, you know, and a lot of times, you know, they taught, and you see a lot of things like even with Naomi and Ruth and some of these other ones, there was a lot of teaching going on, you know, and Ruth, who was a Moabite, had to learn the culture of Yasharel. If you're coming into this, you're marrying my son, we're going to teach you our culture. And that's why she says, your people are going to be my people, your Elohim is going to be my people. I've learned from y'all, you've taken me in. Ruth was like, where am I going to go now? So there was a lot of teaching. The point I'm trying to make, there was a lot of teaching going on about the culture and who we are. This is just what we do. In all of our houses, we should have the 10 Commandments. This is just what we do. It's automatic. There's no debate. I don't know if I would. There's no debate. This is what we do. This is our culture. This gives us culture. That's why he gave it That's why he gave it unto us, right? Because he wants us to be different. That's what Kodesh means, set apart. I didn't make you and intended you to be like everybody else. No, you're set apart. Especially the day that thou stoodest before Yahuwah thy Elohim Eloah in Horeb, which is Sinai, when Yahuwah said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children, right? And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of Shamaim, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And, it says in what we're going to read here, because it says in the New Testament, it's in Hebrews, the book where we're in, where it's testified that when Moses seen this, he quaked with fear. I mean, it was so dramatic that even Moses was fearful. And Yahweh spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he command you to perform. 10 commandments was the covenant that is still in effect today. A lot of what Shaul taught in all his letters, he taught because of the understanding that he had of the covenant, the 10 commandments. Just like he says in Romans chapter 7, and I think it's verse 7. Let's get that real quick. Romans, 7, verse 7? Yeah. What shall we say then? Is the law sin, like Christians are saying, that the law is sin, you don't have to keep the law? He says, Yah forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet. So everywhere in Shaul's writings, from Romans to Philemon, because I don't think he wrote Hebrews, but from Romans, everywhere in there where he's talking about lust and the war of the spirit and the flesh and the lust again, he learned all of that from thou shalt not covet. He says, how would I know what it was except the law has taught me thou shalt not covet? So Paul could do a full sermon, teaching, and talk all night on that one commandment. Because when you go to Galatians and look at a lot and go to some of his other books where he's talking about the lust and the water, he learned that from the 10th commandment. Because Paul was a student and he sat at the feet of Gamaliel. So he was very adverse in all of this. In all of the law, he was very adverse. So when he talked about lust, he learned it from his study of the law. So he says, hey, we can't do away with it. Yah forbid, because I would not have known in my own self what lust was, but the law told me I can't covet. Because for a lot of us, lust is not sin. For a lot of us. Because especially in the Christian church, there's all kind of lust. What do you mean lust is a sin? They'll contend with you. But the law tells us, oh, no. So where does lust come from? So when he's dealing with the commandment, and that's the covenant, where does lust come from? It comes from within us. Something within me desiring something that Yah told me I shouldn't. Yah says, no, leave it alone. But what's in me finds it very attractive. I'm sorry, Yah, but I got to have it. And so the will of your flesh overcomes the will of the Ruach. And that's why he says you got to fight on you all the time. He's getting all this from the commandments. I mean, he's really digging deep into the commandments to bring all of this out. But we think, because the Romans told us, well, you don't have to study the law. And that's all Paul had. When he taught, that's all he had was the law. And he taught it, he expounded on it to teach what we call, quote unquote, the New Testament church. And that's all that is Roman Catholic ideology. All of that is Roman Catholic ideology. Okay, now if you got questions, bring them out. How can you say that's Roman Catholic ideology? You'll find out. Which he commanded you to perform 10 commandments, and he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. And Yahuwah commanded me at the time to teach you statutes and judgments. All the statutes and the judgments that we learn are to keep that covenant. Now, he's going to deal with one as we read down here. In fact, he's going to deal with the very first one, which is, what's the very first commandment? Don't have no other Elohim before me. Very first one. Because he's going to deal with it. And Yahweh commanded me at the time to teach you statutes and judgments from what? From the 10 Commandments. Statutes and judgments. So when you look at what Moses learned from Yahuwah when he was teaching them up in Mount Sinai, and when you look at all that, he gave them statutes and judgments so that you can keep the 10. So that you can keep the 10. All right? Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw, now this is very important, ye saw no manner of similitude on the day Yahuwah spake unto you in Horeb or Sinai out of the midst of the fire. What's a similitude? Yeah, you want to look that up real quick? Because it's going to come back. 8544, H8544. The root is firm, kind, sure. To get it in its context, we got to go down to J-I-1. J-I-1 to get it into it in its context, how he's using it here. So I'm going to scroll. I don't want nobody to get dizzy, especially me. But let's go on down here to J and I-1. So you can see one root word can stem off into different things. So we got to use it in its context. Here it is, J, and then I-1. But it is a likeness. Those of the same kind look alike. So it's a likeness. Listen now, it's a likeness. Those of the same kind look alike. A cow, I can always tell if I'm looking at a cow because it looks like all the other cows. I find out and I get a definition of a cow, but that's, okay. Likeness, similitude, and I heard somebody say, but it's what? An image. An image. An image. The likeness, something that looks like it. Okay? Lest ye corrupt yourself and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female. Because he didn't want Israel to be like all these other nations. It was the Roman Catholic Church that gave you a likeness and an image that you plaster everywhere, which is against Torah. But we do it because the Roman Catholics say, this is your Savior, and this is how you're going to make it. And when you go to heaven, you're going to see him. And when he splits the skies, this is what you're going to see. And all that is idolatry. It's all idolatry. What if I had a syringe? One of the capital punishments for us is they give you the lethal dose, right? Lethal injection. What if I had 3 little things with a big old syringe on it, and I had an image like that, and I wore it around my neck? Some people will think, you're kind of, some people start going like this, right? You got 3, because they put those injections, and it's like 3 of them, they run together in the tube, and they inject it, and then a big old syringe, and you got that around your neck, and you wearing that? What? Something wrong with him. But the Roman government capital punishment, because Yasharel's capital punishment was what? Stoning. Yasharel's capital punishment was stoning. Rome's capital punishment was the stake, what we call the cross. It was the stake. And that's what they would put people up on. They would put your crime or your offense up here, and they would put you on that stake. And that was there. And they did it openly in front of everybody. And you had no dignity because they would take your clothes. They publicly humiliated you. And we wear it as a badge of honor because the Roman Catholics tells us to. And I see apostolic Pentecostal people, brothers, sisters, that have that capital punishment on a chain, and they put it by their heart because the Roman Catholic Church told them to. It's what they do. But if you know Abba, if you know your Father, you know that's forbidden. Yes. Right. It's right there in the Bible. Or they avoided it. Yeah. Yeah. It says it right there. I don't even want you to have an image, which means you shouldn't have it in your home. You shouldn't have it dangling from your rearview mirror, on your neck, stained glass windows. I mean, everything that they taught us was against Abba, was against our Father. And all you got to do is read it. It's always been there. I didn't write this in 2014. I mean, this was written before our Messiah even came. That's why he warned them generations before our Messiah came. I don't think nobody knows what he looks like. A lot of people, well, he looks like this. I don't know. Because it says that he had no beauty or that anybody would desire. He probably was just average looking. You walk right by him, you'd ignore him. And when he comes, when we see him and stuff, I mean, it says the tribes of the earth, they're going to mourn when they see him. But for us, it's not going to be like, man, he looks like Solomon. He looks like Absalom. He looks like King David. Because it said he had no beauty or that anybody would, he was just an average looking man that was just a face in the crowd. Even when he came to talk, they said, is this the one? Can't nothing good come from that. What are you talking about, Nazareth? Can't nothing good come from. And if you know about Nazareth, all the men of Nazareth had long hair and beards. And he had long hair and beard. But we're not supposed to make an image of him. We're not supposed to have an image of him. I mean, the beauty he had was his obedience unto his Father. That's the beauty we should see. That's what should attract us. Not whether he had dreads or afro or a beard or it was prime cut and they got beard oil and it was just glistening in the sun and all. I mean, that's not what, he wants us to see the beauty that he was obedient unto his Father, even unto death. Even unto death. And that's what should attract us. not his physical appearance, but what he actually stood for in being the son of Yahuwah. He says, "This is my only begotten." Because the first Adam was his created son, but Yahusha was his begotten one. All right? Male or female, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, unless thou lift up thine eyes unto the Shamaim, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahuwah thy Elohah hath divided unto all nations under the whole earth, whole heaven. But Yahuwah hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. Yasharel was a nation that he chose to give an inheritance unto. Furthermore, Yahuwah was angry with me for your sakes, and swear that I should not go over Jordan. Why was Yahuwah angry with Moses? Because of the people? He told Moses to speak to the rock. And Moses was upset at the people. Ye rebellious people. And he was the one that was being, and he hit it once and nothing happened. Smote it again, and then out came a river. And he didn't know it at the time, that one thing. After all, and when you look at Moses, if you really read and study this, how many times did Moses go to bat for the people, try to save the people, what he would do, his love for it? I mean, how many times did he do that? And he even told Abba, he says, at one time, he said, it's unfair. I have to be over all these people. And they're just rebellious people, And there's times where he complained about Israel. There's times where he represented Israel. There was a time where he says, blot me out of the book and save the people. And Yah says, oh no, those who had transgressed, those are the ones I'm going to blot out. But everything that Moses went through, and that one thing, one act. And the reason why it was such a thing, because of his position and where he was. And a lot of times people want to do all this and to sail up and everything, but it gets tighter the higher up you go, to where he doesn't allow for mistakes. You mean you can't make a mistake? Look at all the leaders in the book here, because there's a lot of examples. There's a lot of examples, especially the kings and everything, and the leaders and the prophets. But they were held at a different standard because of the position. Moses was held at a different standard. He didn't glorify our Father, and he just kind of did it on his own will, and that cost him. He said, because he tells him later on, if you read in this book, he says, you didn't glorify me, when you smote the rock, because the first time he told him to smite the rock, and he smote the rock. And so Moses did it like, I'm doing this. And if we ever get to that position where we think that we're doing it and not Yah, got to be careful. Even in the book of Acts, we have an example in the book of Acts, even though he was an Edomite king, and he failed to give glory. And what does it say? All of a sudden, the worms ate him up. In his belly, just started eating him up. Because he says, you didn't give me glory. You are Edomite king. You ain't going to give me no glory. I mean, so we have to be very careful. What we don't realize is the blood of Yahusha has really kept us and spared us. That's what he thinks of his son. Not so much you, even though it's you benefiting from it, but that's what he thinks of his son and the life of his son. A lot of times we're spared judgment and we're spared death because of Yahusha, because of his obedience. Because otherwise, there's time. Now, we see that in the book of Acts in the 6th chapter or maybe it's the 4th or 5th chapter, Ananias and Sapphira, right? And they lied. One lie. And it cost them. Wow. You mean he killed them over a lie? One lie. And really, if you look at it, it was how they represented it, because they did sell the land, but they didn't represent how much they sold the land for. And it cost them their life. So a lot of times we're spared, and you ought to be thanking him every day, because there's times you're spared, because of Yahusha, not because of you. Because he even talks about it. He says, not because you were some great, mighty nation. That's not why I chose you. You was the fewest of all of them. But it was mainly because of Abraham, Yishak, and Jacob. And so we actually stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, and we're blessed because of them. And when I say blessed, is we should know if that got them killed, I don't want to do the same thing. If that killed them, let me check myself, make sure, because I don't want to get in that same situation where what killed them ends up killing me. And when you study them in the wilderness, murmuring and complaining, not going to get you in. A lot of folks died from murmuring and complaining. And we're going to see, because we're coming up to an end here, end of an age, and there's some things that's got to happen for Yasharel, and the ones that we should be looking at. I know a lot of people think that the people of Palestine is the chosen people. They're not the chosen people. But when you see Yasharel, who his chosen people are, that's the time clock of the Most High Yah, and he's about to gather his people from the four corners, from one end of the heaven to the other, and Babylon is going to be destroyed, which is we call mystery. The reason why they call it Mystery Babylon is because this Babylon is scattered to all. I mean, the United States of America has tentacles on every continent. On every continent, and in 82 countries around the world, we have a military base. No other country comes close. China, Russia, and you can look it up. No, they don't even come close to where we are and what we do with our, because over in Ghana, they had FBI, CIA people over in Ghana, and they're really nestled in now because the president of Burkina Faso is trying to unite the African nations. The last one to do that was Muammar Gaddafi. He was the last one to do that, and we know what his fate was. Now it's Ibrahim Traore, and they said he is a descendant of Abraham, Yishak, and Jacob. And so he's trying to unite all of the African nations. And I know some people say, well, he's a Muslim. But even in this chapter, and I'm trying to, let's see, we're not going to get through a verse number. I'm going to read 27 and 28. And Yahuwah shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither Yahuwah shall lead you. So wherever Yasharel is and all these different nations, they're not the majority. They're the minority in all these different nations, wherever they go. And there ye shall serve Elohim, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. So if you want to find out where Yasharel is, you're going to find him in idolatry, worshiping wood and stone. That's where you're going to find them. And so, because some people say, well, he's Muslim. Yeah, but it was already prophesied that Yasharel was going to be serving wood and stone. You want to call him Muslim, you got a lot of Yasharel that are Christians. In the eyes of Yahuwah, it's the same. Now, for us, we think there's a difference because that's how we've been taught. We've been taught to hate them and love Christians and love Zionism and Judaizers. But what you ought to do, use chat GPT sometimes and look at the similarities between Islam and Christianity, and then look at the similarities between Christianity and Judaism. And once you start to dissect this and really look at it, you'll find out that we're actually closer in our belief system. Christians and Islam are closer in their belief systems than Judaizers, the Zionists over there in Palestine. But where's our allegiance? Is our allegiance, is Muslim nations our allies, our top allies, or is it that Zionist nation over there in Palestine? Right now, we'll do whatever they tell us to do. And that's going to be the downfall of this nation because it's actually the seat of Satan. It's the synagogue of Satan. So our nation, that's quote-unquote Christian nation, is in allegiance and allied with the synagogue of Satan, but wants you to hate Islam. Muslims. We hate Muslims. Why do you hate Muslims? They taught us that. But you don't realize that your belief system is closer to a Muslim than it is those people over in Israel, over there in Palestine. But we don't stop to think about that because we're indoctrinated. They tell us what to think, and they tell us who are our friends and who's our enemies. They tell us. But Allah is just, you say God, it's what? Not Allah. Allah is, Muhammad is their prophet, is their prophet. Yeah. And Allah is like their God, their deity. I mean, we say God, they say Allah, and we say God. Yeah. But if you look at Islam as a religion, the reason why it's associated with stone is because every Muslim's supposed to take a pilgrimage to Mecca, and if you get privileged to kiss the stone, you either want to touch it or kiss that black stone. So that's, when it talks about wood and stone, that's what it's talking about. Yeah. They make that trek to Mecca. Yeah, and they go around in that. You have to walk around it so many times, and you get closer and closer. And once you get there, if you touch the stone or kiss the stone, then you kind of move on. Somebody else comes through there, and they keep walking
it's
around.
so many people. I mean, like I work with a woman that's Muslim, deeply, devout. And she and her daughter took a pilgrimage to Mecca, and but it's that. I mean, this religion is so like disciplined,
Yeah.
I mean, like those who are really devout are very disciplined. And it was so many people there, you couldn't even hardly get close to the stone to even touch it, because and then the women are not, have to be led there by a man. They can't go there by them, themselves. Right. So it is. I mean, at first, I was like, well, this was years ago. I was just like, we were taught to hate, or have a disdain. But the older I got, the more awakened I became, because I wanted to understand it, because even before I Yahweh arrest, or I became saved, I don't even know, whatever. I was wanting to be a Muslim. Because one of my next door neighbor, her daughter, converted, and I was like, I was very interested because I was looking for something else. I was like, it's got to be something else to life, and it's highly structured. And so I told my mother, I said, I want to be a Muslim, and she would have thought I like took her heart and threw it and stepped.
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
like going off the deep end. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, I'm just trying to figure this
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
But then even now, I listen and I converse with this woman I work with, and she is really, I mean, there are similarities,
There's a lot of
I mean, like
similarities.
even some of the terms that we use, very similar, to them. So I don't know. They shouldn't be hated,
No, they shouldn't. And they believe, I mean, Christians believe Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world and he's going to come back and gather his people. They believe Jesus Christ is a prophet, but he's the final judge on earth. He's going to come back and judge the earth. The Judaizers believe Jesus is in hell in human excrement. So if you look at what wood believes, what stone believes, and then what they believe, wood and stone is closer in similarity than what they are. Many of them don't even believe our Messiah's even come. So why not look bad at them? I mean, even the Muslims recognize Jesus. They even said he was a prophet, he lived. They said that there's 2 books you should read, the Bible and the Quran. They believe in Elijah was a prophet, all of them. Yeah. Yeah, and they believe in the laws. They're like I said, they're very strict. They're disciplined in their faith. They have standards, and I mean, there's certain things their women are very conservative dressing. They don't expose. You go to a mosque and see those women there, and then go to a Christian church and look at those women. I mean, it's like night and day. It's like, what? Yeah, but and if we follow the teachings of Torah, we will, because his daughters in Yasharel were not like all the other daughters around they didn't look, and it's like, why do you want, they even told Samson, why do you want somebody outside of Israel? Why do you want a Philistine, and a strange woman? Because our women just look different and dress different. And you see that with Islam a lot. They don't expose everything. They're very conservative in their dress. And so they represent more of what's in line with the book than what a lot of the Christian churches are. And we have to be very careful of that. And like you said, even Israelite. No, because if I'm a king, or if I'm a prince, or the women are princesses or queens and stuff, royalty, they dress different. You don't dress like everybody, Yes.
He knows that, I'm gonna say, blacks are the children of Israel. He knows it, and he talks about God. I'm not saying everything he teaches is right, but I do know that the reason why we think of Muslims as being mean and murderous, because they plastered on media. That's all I grew up seeing. I didn't personally grow up knowing any Muslims as far as a kid to an adult. So when I would hear of it being taught to me, either at school, on media, in the pulpit, whatever, that formed my ideology, just like 9/11. First time I got on an airplane and I see what appeared to be a Muslim person, or a person from that was Arab, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they're getting on the same plane. Why? Because media puts out their dirt and what they do, but a lot of the dirt that the colonizers did gets hidden and pushed under the rugs, and how we're still going into countries and we're taking over. They don't put that in media, and how we're like taking over people's land and people's lives and trying to impose laws upon them and take from their wealth and resources. Well, we don't see that. We see, oh, we're the best nation. We're trying to help people. We're helping the poor. We're letting immigrants in, and we're doing this and we're doing that, when it's totally opposite.
Yeah.
But now that I'm learning, like, man, I'm gonna tell you, When I was in Africa, I was impressed. Most of the women had dresses, and I'm not talking about Muslim women. Most of the women had dresses.
they did.
The girls had on dresses. You saw a few women here or there that had on dresses or skirts, but I would say 90% of the women had on dresses or skirts.
We didn't hardly see any women in shorts,
I
let alone shorts.
even the ladies of the night had on dresses. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw most of I've ever saw, but just the whole context. I saw Muslims. We passed by several Muslim people walking around just as, being as peaceful.
Yeah.
And even when they quarreled and they had arguments, they weren't trying to kill each other and harm each other. They argued. But just to see like the Muslim people, we passed by Muslim villages, it gave me a new perspective. Like, man, I was told that they're this and they're that, but now I'm seeing a whole different side. Like, they pray more than I do. They study more than I do. They know more about my God that I serve than I do. So I don't look at them in that same light anymore as in the past, because now it's like, man, I've been hoodwinked, That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's because, like I said, the media, they indoctrinate us, and we need to do our research and our study, and there's all kind of tools out there to use nowadays because we're in the age of information. Like I said before, if you're ignorant, it's because you choose to be, because there's just too much out there for us to learn now. And yeah, there's a lot of things that we've seen and we heard that we witnessed, and I just wish all of you could see the things, hear the things, experience it, be there and everything. It'll leave an impression on your life. It will, because we think America's the world. No, 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 no. There's a great big world out there. There's a lot of different countries and continents and people. And even when we define Israel, we have to, because even when we went to Ghana, everybody over there was a lot of Hamites there. They're not Israelites, So you have to, know which ones are who. But a lot of times you can tell. Well, where most of the Israelites are, but then you'll see the certain practices and the way they live. There are people who love culture. They love culture. We would look at them and think, man, you guys got it so bad. I feel so sorry for you. They'll look at you like, what you talking about? What do you mean we got it so bad? We're good. What about you? I mean, it's because of our perspective of living in a westernized capitalistic government. Our view of them is different than the way they see them, because they don't see themselves like how you would see them. Yeah.
No, I concur with you. When we went to the Dominican Republic, just to see, I mean, like when you're on the resort, I mean, like it's like beautiful. But I guess I was like looking at them because they were busting and working 12, 18 hours a day. And then when you go to like these excursions, you go on the bus and then they go in through the villages and my heart was broken, because I'm like, we live in the life here, and then they go home to what? It was shacks and dirt floor. I mean, and just poverty, So, and then when we came back, to the States, I was just still like,
It leaves an impression.
goodness, yes. I'm like, goodness. We gripe about, I don't have this, I don't have that. And they don't have anything, so shut up.
And they don't they're not complaining and feel so bad. We would look at them and think, oh, you guys have it horrible. And they're looking at it like, we're living. This is our life, hmm Yeah, yeah. You had to. I think they wanted to get you to go to pay. She had to pay to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
But the thing is, they're doing it to make income. So then I was like, okay, I can give up this
Yeah.
CDs or whatever.
Yeah.
Everywhere we went, I mean, like no matter what we did, you had it our what do you call that traveling. She said, give them a tip.
Yeah.
Like when we the first night, when, I guess we got there, then the morning they came in and they did our and then we left a tip on the on the bed when they cleaned the room, and we came back we had swans and
Yeah.
all over the room
Yeah. They
because we tipped them.
right. They will work for money.
But they have so little,
Yeah, they have little. Yeah.
and you
But they're not willing, they're not afraid to work though.
they're not they
They
work
don't have a lot, but they will work.
because this one lady worked. I'm just I guess it's because of my profession. I mean, like the social work for me is like you need to help them.
Yeah.
But they had pregnant women working 12, 18-hour days on their feet, cleaning, serving, and
Yeah.
they were all just so kind.
Yeah. And we seen people over there, they'll wash your feet. They'll wash your feet. You just pay them some CDs, they'll wash your feet. I mean, they'll serve you, whatever, for some CDs or for some money, They'll,
Here, and you ask, can I have some extra napkins? Oh my God, I'm just in line.
it's a culture thing. Yeah. 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 But to whom much is given, much is required. And we have a lot. What are we doing with it? It's almost like when he gave out the talents and the pounds. What are we doing with it? Because we have a lot. When you go see these other countries and how they live, we got a lot. What are we doing with it? Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think we as a people, and I mean black people, all of us, even in poverty, I think that we're all confused a lot of times. So because I've learned over my younger age and up to now, and I still think this, my theory has not changed from this. I think that we constantly go on that fight or flight mode where we keep jumping to the next thing that's thrown out of media. Like we say the fake news all the time, right? You turn on NBC, you turn on ABC, you turn on Fox, you turn on whatever news channel you watch, and it's fake news. Even on the internet now, you got fake news. So I think that we're on fire flight mode, and we panic, and we jump to the next big thing. Oh, this is the next big religion. You got to do it. So everybody just jumps to that. I know I made a comment to you. I said, man, it's like everybody's just jumping to be a Christian or Nation of Islam. I said, that's weird, because years ago, nobody wanted to be no Christian. And you would be crazy if you was going to be a Muslim. So it was either you're going to pick being a Christian or you just not going to believe in nothing. You just going to do you. The term was, I'm going to do me, or self-made for years. For years, self-made was it. It was just you, yourself. Now, everybody's jumping into wherever they feel like they fit now. And I think that's where we're at. But far as like us as a people, I think that we've gone through a complete portal of confusion every time, because we get confused and then we come at dismay. Yeah, you just had a scripture up there talking about not to be. Actually, I think I wrote it down. Matter of fact. Yeah, it was in Joshua 1:9.
Joshua 1:9.
Yeah. And right there, have I not commanded thee, be strong, of good courage, be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. And I feel like that part right there, where being afraid, and then we dismay everything that was commanded. Right there. There's no courage, there's no faith, there's no nothing. So then that's where that panic part comes in. Because now you don't have no faith, so you don't have no hope. So if you don't have no faith and you don't have no hope, now you're not paying attention to none of those commandments. None of those apply to you now. So then it goes back to, well, what is my purpose? Where am I supposed to be? Then you go to the next biggest thing. Okay, well, what applies to me? Especially in your life where you're at now. So I think far as me and my younger generation and the people that I know that's at my age and younger, that's where they're at. They're trying to figure out what applies to me. Yeah. And then the younger generation, they ain't even went through nothing yet. But they promise up and down they done went through everything.
And that's why we got to be careful and be steadfast, unmovable, because he says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And that's that instability that you're talking about, just very unstable. And Paul even says being tossed about by every wind and doctrine. I mean, the new wind comes in, I'm going to jump on this one. Something else comes in, I'm going to jump on this. Oh, new doctrine over here, I'm going to go over here. And that's just instability. And a lot of that has to do because we're not taught right at the beginning. Because if I would think about how much further where I would be if I had more teaching like this, especially at a young age. Because he always wants you to grow and develop. And we should know more today than what we knew last year or 5 years ago. I mean, you got that growth. That's why he said it's a walk. But, yeah, we got to be stable and everything. Anybody got anything else they want to add or any questions? Or we kind of went over our time, but it's good just to sit and talk and discuss the Torah. And one thing we have to, I just want to say, we got to really prepare ourselves because things are going to change. Things are going to change. So we pray for the bandwidth. We pray for a heart. We want to be able to endure through the tribulation because it talks about while you're in tribulation, even in the fourth chapter. We didn't get there tonight, but the fourth chapter of Deuteronomy, and it talks about even in the tribulation because Yasharel is going to be in that tribulation. There's not a pre-flight out. You know, you got to go through the tribulation, and we're at that time, and it actually has come upon us. The floods were in Texas. Now they're in Davenport, and then where else did they go? New Jersey and New York. I mean, there's just all kind of stuff is going on right now, all around the nation, and people are losing life. We're kind of insulated here. Hallelujah. Thank Yah. We're insulated. But there's a lot of people that have a lot of heartache that's suffering. A lot of people have heartache and suffering. They're destroying all the bridges? Hitting bridges and knocking out bridges and yeah, it's going to be tough. But we have to understand that we're going to have the opportunity to leave because it talks about those. We didn't get into it tonight. Maybe we'll get into it on the Shabbat. But it does talk about those who escaped and those who left. And so there is going to be an opportunity for us to leave. The question is, are you going to leave? That's the thing, because you're going to have some who are not going to leave, and then you're going to be here when the judgment falls on this nation. But the opportunity's coming for us to leave, and if that's the case, we've got to be ready to go. All right, with that, we're going to say shalom to all of you that was able to be with us on tonight. Those in the digital house will say shalom to you as well, and we'll be back here on the Sabbath, Shabbat. And if you got questions or comments or anything, you certainly can ask them. We'll try to answer them, and I always can say I don't know. But if there's nothing else, then we're going to say shalom to everybody and let the media team take us away.